Hello and welcome back to this second installment of video tutorial where you'll be creating your own custom track. In the previous tutorial we have covered the basics of some basic user interface. We have learned some shortcut keys in the world editor. So in this tutorial we'll be beautifying and adding the major details, decorating it with the minor details, and I'll also show you a simple tour on the other environment windows is how to set up your environment, such as the sun color, ambient color, and so on and so forth. Now, if the scene is at any one time is too bright for you, like this, you could always disable the post-processing effects under the view setting window. On the post-processing, disable. Okay, now let's continue by adding the ground pieces, ground blocks. Okay, top view. Shift D to duplicate. So we just keep duplicating these pieces until we fill up the entire area. Okay, now that we've prepared some basic ground blocks, we can now start placing buildings. So under building blocks category, and okay, we sometimes have full building blocks category. These are the high detailed ones, and the filler building blocks are actually very simple buildings which are actually placed much further back to the scene. You could call it filler props to fill empty spaces at the backgrounds. So let's just ignore this for now and add some filler buildings, full buildings. Left click to place. Middle mouse button to scroll through the selections. it should do it for some basic building blocks. Press F4 for free flying mode, and just to check, see how it currently looks like. So now we'll be adding some slightly smaller details like trees. So select the props category. Here you'll also be seeing some groups for trees, obstacles, holographic sign, debris, and so on and so forth. Let's just select trees for now, and left click to place the first tree. Duplicate the trees, or just duplicate them to fill up the scene quickly. So let's just add some debris. Select debris and so. Please remember that to move an object in finite increments, either G axis plus the shift key or control. I'll just duplicate this as well. Rotate R, duplicate, shift D. Okay. Okay, once you're satisfied with the current look and feel of your track with the major details, it is now time to start placing the micro details. To do so, press the F2 key and it will bring out the paging geometry window. The paging geometry is actually a term used for where we use for much smaller objects such as grass, pebbles, leaves, fallen leaves, and so on and so forth. So to start placing it, you need to first add a detail layer. You can create as many layers as you like. Let's just call it the grass layer. Okay, you can also create a pebbles layer, fallen leaves layer, and so on and so forth. Okay, the maximum range is in meters, the maximum viewing range, and the fade off range also. You can also set it to always cast shadow, turn on off, and if it's set to fixed details, the paging geometry such as grass will never fade off, it will always be rendered. Useful for certain areas where you'll never want the details to disappear. But of course, it eats up performance as well. Not that much, but it still does eat up performance. So the brush mode, we have two types, paint and erase. So mesh, the mesh itself is the brush, but since this is a grass layer, let's just pick L grass. And to start painting, simply left click the mouse cursor anywhere on the screen. As you can see, I'm holding it and moving around, and this will slowly create more grasses in the scene that sticks to a particular surface. To delete, select erase, and you can change the erase radius and also the drag distance. Bear in mind that this small icons here, you can reduce it, the radius, or increase the radius, or you can use the dot here, left click, hold, drag, and rotate to increase or reduce the brush radius as well. Also useful for other sliders such as colors and so on and so forth. So to erase, just place the spherical eraser brush and left click to erase it. Let's set it back to the paintbrush and find a spot here. Yes. The drag distance will show how frequently a brush is planted. So in this case of 1, a grass is planted every 1 meter. But if you want it to be more frequent, you just set it to 0.1 or something smaller, and you can start painting, and you appear much more frequently. The follow normals basically explains how should the smaller details follow the major details surfaces. If it's set to 0, it means the detail itself, such as the grass, is always upright. But if it's set to 1, then the grass will follow the surfaces of the mouse. Notice the mouse cursor here. This is set to 1. As you can see, the grass is slightly bent or slanted following the surface. Straight, bent, or set back normal to 0, and it doesn't move at all. Okay, you can also set the angle limit of which it can bend, and also we can also randomize the rotation as well as the scaling, minimum rotation, maximum rotation, and minimum scale and maximum scale. So this will create a much more believable environment where not all the details have the same scaling size. So let's just set this to 2 and minimum 0.5. So what it does, as I paint along, it will randomize the scale or the size of the grass So let's just start painting a little bit here. Okay, now let's just create another detail layer called Pebbles and select a Pebbles brush, maybe a much smaller scale, 0.5, and similarly just left click, drag, and start painting on the surfaces to add more details. Okay, once you're happy decorating the entire level with these small details, you can always press F2 again to exit this editing mode. Don't forget to save, Ctrl S. Next off, we'll be adjusting the environment variables. This is where we set the ambient color of the environment as well as the sunlight color. So I have a few predefined presets already, so let's just use it. 130, 160 for green, 175, diffuse, 6, 140, 8, set the power to 1.5, but if you want it to be much brighter, 3, but it's just too bright. Let's just set it to 1.5 for now. Okay, enable skybox. The skybox is the sky environment. You can disable it. This skybox was predefined in your depend.cfg file, which we've set to use the post-apocalyptic skybox. If we set the number 1 to city, it will be a bluish skybox. So let's set enable fog to on and fog density to 0.002. Change the color of the fog to 125, 150, 153 for distance fog. SSAO. What is SSAO? SSAO is basically soft shadow between the edges. To demonstrate, let's just find a crease here. Okay. To view SSAO effect, you need to set the view setting post-processing enable and enable SSAO is enabled, so let's disable it. As you can see, you will not be able to see the soft shadows between edges. Let's enable it and set to 0.5, 1.5 and 3. HDR determines how much bloom. I'm not going to go into every detail here for the HDR settings, but let's just follow these settings for now. You can also experiment with the settings yourselves later. 0.5, 1, 0.65, 0.110 and 1.7. And you can also enable depth of field. So let's minimize these windows. And this is currently how it looks like, with post-processing on and some minor details here and there. So don't forget to save it, and you can now test the track itself again using the game. So press escape to exit. So once you have loaded up the game, similar to the first tutorial, host game, select my track, next, and we're not changing the vehicles. Start. Okay, there you have it. The track is now much better decorated with objects, trees, debris, buildings, and a proper ground for it. And that's it for this tutorial. The next tutorial will cover track optimization. Thanks for watching.